Okay, and we are live. Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to this very exciting panel with some of Malaysia's much credible government officials in our fourth KYSER Kopi series, Building the Nation Through Civil Service. I'm Pavitra Nilanko, KYSER of batch 2019, currently a student in Alice Smith School, Kuala Lumpur. I must first say that it is beyond an honor to be able to moderate a panel filled with such amazing individuals, in fact, heroes of Malaysia. Before we begin with the crux of today's discussion, I'd like to take this opportunity to explain today's webinar's objectives and what it's entirely about. So the first objective is to understand the roles played by public servants in building the nation. And the second objective is to paint the most realistic picture of how life is being a public servant. And now that we're clear with where we're heading towards, I just want to ensure that everyone's mics are working fine. Let's start with Dr. OP. Hi, Doctor. Can you hear me?
Hi. Assalamualaikum.
Okay.
Salam sejahtera.
Okay, all right. That's excellent. Now, Mr. Nick, can you hear me?
Hi, Pavi. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clearly.
All right. And great. That's Miss Nadia. Can you hear me, Miss Nadia?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I can clearly hear you.
All right, great. Their mics are working fine. So it's only fair we give them the introductions they deserve before beginning the discussion. Let's start with Dr. OP. So Dr. OP is known as Dr. Siti Norafidah Mohamed Ramli. She's better known as Dr. OP in UKM by all the students and lecturers. So in addition to her Ph.D. in Applied Finance and Actuarial Science from Macquarie University of Sydney, she also holds a Bachelor of Science in Actuarial Science with first-class honours and a Master's in Risk and Stochastics from LSE, London School of Economics. She's a Level 3 CFA candidate and a member of Mensa Malaysia. She's also the head of Actuarial Science and the Applied Finance Research Cluster at UKM. Prior to her academic career, she was a quant analyst with Pemodelan Nasional Berhad, PNB, and actively involved with cooperative organizations as an internal auditor. Other than her research work in finance and investment, she's also passionate about Japanese jiu-jitsu, singing, and song improvisation. Dr. OP. It's really an honor to have you here, Dr. OP. Now, Ms. Nadia Monira Mohamed Taib. So Ms. Nadia has served in the public sector for the past 16 years in four different agencies, namely the Construction Industry Development Board, CIDB, a statutory body under the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Ministry of Higher Education, and the Prime Minister's Office. Her last post was as the private secretary to the 7th Prime Minister of Malaysia, and Ms. Nadia graduated from Universiti Malaya with a degree in quantity surveying, Masters in Public Administration at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, NUS, and currently she's preparing to pursue her Ph.D. in Public Policy in the UK. This is Ms. Nadia. Hi, Ms. Nadia. Thank you for joining us today. Now, Mr. Nick Mohamed Hussein Nick Ali. Mr. Nick, this is a very interesting portfolio. Mr. Nick is an international economics degree holder from the University of Adelaide. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Economics from University Science Malaysia. Apart from that, he's also a postgraduate diploma holder in public policy from University Malaya. Quite interestingly, Mr. Nick started his career in PricewaterhouseCoopers, a very well-known private company looked up to by many students, not just in KYS, but also all around Malaysia, especially those who are approaching the finance sector. After 1 year and 9 months of working in PwC, Mr. Nick decided that PwC just wasn't for him and moved on to join the public sector. He began as an assistant secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and assisted on the advisory role to the Malaysian King, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and Foreign Minister on Malaysia-Singapore bilateral issues. Now, he's the principal private secretary in the Ministry of Environment and Water. He heads the administration of the Deputy Prime Minister's office, which includes an advisory role on the ministry's policy space, communication, and media planning, as well as political directive. Mr. Nick, thank you for...
Correction, Pavi, Deputy Minister.
Yeah.
Deputy Minister.
All right, Deputy Minister. So that was a very, very long introduction for all three of our panelists. And the reason why it's so long is because it's quite obvious these are very, very qualified panelists today that we have from the public sector. And before we begin, we would also like to request for everyone to just subscribe to our Cemerlang WhatsApp by sending a hello to the number below that will be sent in the live comments. And also to subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course, just to show your support. So now that introduction is all over, and now that we know our panelists quite decently well, let's start off with a little bit of job introduction and roughly to get an idea of what these panelists are doing in their roles as public servants. Let's start with Dr. OP. Dr. OP, can you tell us something about your job, or just give us a slight preview or background on what you're doing right now?
Okay. Yeah, Assalamualaikum. Thank you for having me in the discussion. Okay, I started as a lecturer year 2007 in June. So it's been 13 years now. So as an academician at a research university, my job, there are four components to my job, which are teaching, research, supervision, and community service. So in terms of teaching, I'm teaching in the actuarial science program. So what I do is I prepare actuarial students to join the professional industry. The professionals in the financial services industry. For that part of my career, I also pursue KFA. In terms of research, I collaborate with researchers from all around the world. Currently, the research I'm doing is on risk portfolio modeling using self-excited process with, with my colleague. Sorry, bukan colleague lah, with my co-researcher. He's a postgraduate in another university in the US. In terms of supervision, I have one PhD candidate under my supervision. She's expected to complete her studies in September 2022. And then in terms of community service, I'm actively involved in food crises in my hometown in Pakistan as an internal auditor. I was actually, yeah. Term dah habis.
Okay, that's very interesting, Dr. OP. How about you, Mr. Nick?
That's a rather very hard question for me to talk about what I do in public service. But as mentioned in my introductory by you, I'm currently the administrative and diplomatic officer, well known as PTDs, currently at the Ministry of Environment and Water. Most of what I do in my recent ministries are on policy making, international relation, trade negotiation. I was involved in free trade agreements negotiation, and also some of the meetings, especially on the e-commerce drafting agreement at the World Trade Organization (WTO). And currently, I'm at the Minister of Environment and Water, specifically at the Deputy Minister's office. Like you said in the introductory, that I leading the Deputy Minister's office in terms of everything, actually, administrative, finance, management office, and now I'm doing also the media branding for the Deputy Minister. Yeah, basically that's it.
All right. How about you, Ms. Nadia?
Thank you for having me. So
an honor.
I actually, for whatever I do, it really depends on the ministry or agency that I was attached to. For instance, in CIDB, Construction Industry Development Board, I was being designated as a project manager to monitor all project and training academies around Malaysia. So I had to go to the site every day to ensure all the execution is implemented within the stipulated time. And besides that, when I joined the PTD service, like what Nick mentioned, my first posting in Ministry of Tourism and Culture, I was involved in events management, finance, and even human capacity training buildings to all frontliners around the whole country for Visit Malaysia. So it was very enriching experience because I could actually see how socio-economic conditions of our community has been improved through proper training and such. In Ministry of Higher Education, I was involved in UNESCO and also multilateral organizations whereby we have to represent Malaysia for all the issues related to education sector, which is a very crucial, I think education is a very crucial sector at all countries. Where my last post at the Prime Minister's office was very eye-opening actually, because it cut across all ministries, all sectors, and all multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary functions of the whole public administration. So it was very humbling because I had to handle and help people from the grassroots levels to the top management levels, handling complaints, requests, proposals from public sector, private and civil society. So it was an enriching experience because it taught me about how we as public servants need to be very alert, sensitive, and very quick to respond to all the plights of the community and citizen.
Miss, it seems like the position you held also held a lot of matter, a lot of value in terms of how you are contributing to the country. Do you feel like it's a job that is of such magnitude of importance? Do you feel like the reason why you chose this job is the fact that how it affects the people and it affects society as a whole? Is that the reason why you are so motivated to stay in the public sector?
Well, I do think that is part of it because honestly, I do think that most of us came from a different sector, probably not 100% government before. So when I started as a quantity surveyor, I saw how buildings or facilities being constructed from ground zero to completion. So it was a very fulfilling achievement, and it's like a satisfaction beyond measure. So when I joined the public service, I already know that I have a clear sense of purpose why I want to be in the public sector, not because of the reasons that probably probably misconception of public servants or public sectors have this connotation that is stable, secure, even inefficient. But I think that we as like Malaysians should think that if we would like to make government better or contribute to the nation, we could contribute in the public sector effectively.
That's very nice to hear, Miss. May I ask the other two panelists then, what is the reason what is the motivation that keeps you in the public sector as a whole? Mr. Nick, would you like to go?
If I may to add on Nadia's point, it's not a matter of choosing public sector, because I think those who are working in the private sector, the entrepreneurs, those who are in the GLCs, they are also contributing to the nation building. But
Definitely, yeah.
being a civil servant in the public sector, it is just one of the ways to contribute to the country. And as cliche as it sounds, like Nadia said, we have to have a very proper mentality joining the public servant, because it's not a question of being stable, it's not a question of being, it's not a question of money at all. It's not a question of gaji, salary at all, but it's the question of how passionate are you to serve the people. All right, and passionate does not come only by civil servants only, but also by other Malaysians in public, corporate sector and entrepreneurs, and in every sector in the country.
So, Mr. Nick, what is it that built your passion in whatever you are describing right now?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I would like to define public service differently. Public service is not just by public servants. I have been in public service, I think, for 11 years since 2010, even before joining public service. I was in NGOs, I was in student leaders, and these are also public service that I think I contributed to the country. So from there, I think I want to contribute in a different area by joining public service. So the motivation is always to serve the people, even for the last 10 years when I started.
That's very nice to hear, Mr. Nick. How about you, Dr. Opi? What is the reason, what is the motivation and the drive that is built from a perspective of a lecturer?
Oh, from an educator's perspective, what keeps me motivated, obviously, because I see my students what gets to be the choice of local employers every day. So which means that when I do my work, it has to be balanced. Let's say when I mark their work, it has to be there has to be balance between harsh and lenient, because those marks, those grades remain with them forever. So if I penalize them harshly, then that will it will be hard for them to find jobs later. But if I'm being too lenient, then they might be marketable in the short run, but later they'll be a bad employee, and then
Yeah.
employers would avoid them, and the cycle will go back to my department. But in terms of like say my personal aspirations, now that I am a CFA candidate level 3, I from those CFA readings, I get to see how world top unis, how how they have what research freedom, advanced teaching equipment, up to date sources, and well at the same time paying their staff salary, providing scholarship for the future and current students. So all these were being done. They achieve all this because they have wealthy and sustainable endowment fund. So when it comes to that one, what keeps me motivated is I would like to see these things also happening in our local university, especially UKM.
I see. That's very nice to hear as well. So now that that's quite clear that we received from the panelists, and Miss Nadia actually touched on something that I really wanted to bring up. It's kind of a comparison between the public sector and the private sector. So there exists many stereotypes towards the public sector, and this is a prevalent issue right now. So my question is, are these stereotypes true? Stereotypes such as public sectors are being underpaid, hence they are less public servants are being underpaid, hence they are likely to be less efficient, unproductive, lazy, unpassionate, inclined towards white-collar crimes, for instance. And these are stereotypes that are prevalent in today's society. And I think it's best that we clear out the doubt today. And it's also best that some of the greatest officers can explain to us whether that's true or not that these stereotypes exist in reality. Maybe Ms. Nadia can go first.
I do have to check with other of my colleagues whether we are underpaid or not. But we need to ensure that when we join the public sector, it's not about being handsomely paid or getting like a high package or excellent remuneration, salary package, because we know that when you join the public sector, the pay is quite reasonable. At the moment, I do think it's as competitive as in other GLCs. If I were to compare, because when I joined in, for degree holders, it's quite competitive. But later, when you rise upon your promotion and all, I do think that it will be compensated with a lot of allowances, and you also have assistance in other funds like our housing allowance, our training development allowance. So there are a lot of in-kind benefits of being in the public sector. But to label as being underpaid, hence we are more prone to integrity issues and all. I don't think that is an issue, because somehow people with high remuneration package as well, or even paid highly, would be susceptible to integrity issues or even corruption issues. So it comes back to the individual itself. It's not about whether we are highly paid or not. So I do think that it is quite reasonable, and we are doing it for the country. Whatever we are contributing, we are serving to the people. So I do think the satisfaction of improving people's lives and also getting good probably remarks from people that you have helped actually contributes back to your inner calling of public sector. It's not about money, or it's not about the salary that you get as a whole, because in life, once probably you mature in your career and progression, you will realize that money is not everything. It's about how you help and how you contribute to your society that is most important.
I would like to add on
Yes, Mr.
from Nadia's point. You talk about integrity issues and things. I think that integrity issues are everywhere. It's not just in civil service. It's everywhere, even in the corporate sector, even in small businesses. But what makes it interesting for the netizens and reporters and media to comment is when just a small portion of civil servants. Yeah, I would say that our civil service especially, we are not perfect. There are some that are prone to integrity issues, but then I would say, and I would like to emphasize again, integrity issues are everywhere. It's not just by civil servants, it's by everyone, it's by individual. So to say that civil service is the one who have integrity issues, that's not right for me, and I have to clear this. All right, I have to clear this now. Like I said, it's individual basis,
Correct.
and first of all, you need to have the right mindset. It's not about the money. It's not about the benefits. It's not even about the power. All right. It's about the passion of serving the people. Yes, being a civil service, you have some kind of uh, power, but you have to be responsible with the power that you have. And that's the right mindset that you need to be as a civil servant. Pavi.
I think that's a really good message sent out. It's well phrased. I think I have to agree. I have to agree that that form of power is always an individual based usage of power. However, I must harp on something that Miss Nadia said, and I would really like to project this towards Dr. Opi. So Miss Nadia mentioned about benefits and how in the public sector it's not necessarily just about the low income. It's also about how in amongst that in between, like in addition to the low income, you also have benefits that and allowances that would mean that you would still have a better quality of life. However, in many cases, we can see that teachers are being quite underpaid in today's day. And you, as an academic, I'm very curious to know that maybe because lecturing might be a different scene, but for teachers, for instance, many teachers seem to be very demotivated to teach their students, and we realize that teachers as public servants play a very important role in building the nation because they contribute towards ensuring that the younger generation become the people they want to become. So what do you think about this? Do you think that there should be a form of change that occurs in today's world towards teaching, and how teachers, especially the issue of teachers moving towards the private sector on a very large scale? What is your take on this, Dr. Opi?
Sorry, can you please repeat on that question because tadi ada kan putus-putus.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. So my question is,
Cakap slow sikit.
okay, Miss Nadia mentioned about teaching, and Miss Nadia mentioned about allowances and why allowances can make up to why certain levels of lower wages are not can be negligible. But in the case of teachers tend to have quite little allowances, and it is amongst the reason why a lot of teachers decide to move from the public sector to private sector. For instance, even in KYS, many teachers are from government schools who came to KYS, just as an example. So many people look at this as a problem because teachers then become more demotivated and they are less likely to contribute, and they feel like their work is of less worth. What is your take on this as an academic, Dr. Opi?
Okay, let me repeat your question so that I get it correctly. Yeah. So you're saying that teachers move from public sector going to private sector because of pay, because of salary. Am I correct?
There are many reasons, but salary would be one of it. And because of like allowances, like Miss Nadia mentioned, wouldn't apply for teachers. So as an academic, what is your take on it?
Sorry Pak dia masih putus-putus. So
Okay.
betul apa yang I faham, you're saying that what is my opinion when teachers from public sector move pergi private sector.
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Is that okay? Yeah, I guess dia macam ni. At one point, maybe when we were young, kita mungkin masih tengok the salary part of it. But at some point later, once you age, your priority changes. Number one, because you ada ada tanggungan and things like that. And then also, sorry, I was kejap. I'm macam dia kacau kat dalam ni kejap. But at the same time, once you age, your priority has changed, and then your happiness, which relates to your happiness also. But if I may add a bit to Nadia's point about being underpaid ni, I personally I take it as blessing, because satu, bila kena tax, I kena tax rendah sikit because my base salary, because I'm taxed based on my salary, right? So and then on top of that, I also receive allowance. I'm not taxed based on my allowance. I take that as a compliment. As a blessing in disguise. Number two, I think alamak, lupa pula point tadi. Bila yeah, let me just think. Tadi the point was in my head, tapi dia macam lupa macam tu. But yes, one is the tax base. Okay, I memang dah blank sekarang.
Would you prefer if we moved on, Doctor?
I'm sorry?
Would you prefer if we moved on to the next question?
Move on to the next question. Sorry.
Yes.
But are we still on the stereotype part?
Yeah, we're moving towards the younger generation now. My next question is going to be about the younger generation. Is that all right?
Okay. Can I just add a bit on that stereotype yang tadi nak kata underpay, and Nick kata ada pasal authority yang kita dapat and stuff. But when it comes to UKM in particular, the stereotype yang kita biasa dapat is it relates to language. So usually every year we get question from the freshies. First dia akan tanya, nanti lecture tanya kita deliver in English or in Malay. I tak tahu, I don't know whether UKM saja dapat ini atau maybe USIM pun dapat ataupun UIA pun dapat. But I don't know, in UKM, one thing, the mission is untuk menjadi universiti terpilih yang memartabatkan Melayu dan mensejagatkan ilmu beracuan budaya kebangsaan. As far as I know, in UKM, 20% of the subjects are taught in English, if not more. Okay. My subjects, they are all taught in English. I teach economics to first year. I teach financial mathematics to second year, as well as stochastic process to in actuarial science and finance to the final year students. So all these will be in English. And somehow when I teach, I see that my students can understand me perfectly. They can understand the materials perfectly. It's just that the way I see it, we Malaysians, we should treat Malay and English language as complement instead of comparator or substitute. Yeah, just like how we treat them, just like how we treat our left hand and our right hand. Of course, it's your right hand is important. You eat, you shake hand, you even give your best punch with your right hand. But early in the morning, when you get ready to face the world, right? You clean yourself. You pakai tangan mana satu. So it's hard for us to live with only one. Dia kena dua-dua datang jalan sekali. So English is important. I tidak dinafikan. Banyak ilmu, if kalau you mahir berbahasa Inggeris, you akan dapat banyak ilmu, even journals pun banyak dalam bahasa Inggeris. But if you want to work in Malaysia, you have to understand that Malay language is important.
Yes, agreed.
Yes, kalau katakan, even if you're working in private sector, suddenly one day your company decides to do to apply or bid for a contract with government, dia punya correspondence saya rasa masih dalam formal language, dalam bahasa asli kan. So I mean, regardless of you bagus English ke tak bagus English, how can you call yourself a Malaysian if you're not confident to speak effectively in bahasa Melayu, bahasa kebangsaan, while carrying out your duty or while you are eyeing for scholarship, while you're eyeing for government position. So kita English ni just because you speak English fluently, that does not make you more elite. Just because you speak English fluently, that does not make you less Malaysian. Just because you speak English fluently, but at the same time, just because you speak Malay most of the time, that also does not make you less intelligent than those who speak English fluently. So dua penting, dua kena.
Can I add on Dr. Opi's point?
Yes, Nick, go ahead.
I have to agree with Dr. Opi because I think the acuan set by our local universities or our dasar kerajaan before this, right? That's a good acuan for the inspiring civil servants in the future. You know, we need to understand that things like this, that when you speak in Malay doesn't mean that you are less pandai. You know, if you speak in English doesn't mean that you are more pandai than other people. So this
Okay.
is the acuan that I think is the right acuan, uh, and the right mindset to enter the public service, or being in public service in general. You know, to be Malaysians first. To be Malaysians first.
Now that you brought that up, Mr. Nick, it
Really,
quite conveniently brings me to the next question, which is, what do you think the best attributes that have to be held? What do you think are the best attributes that have to be held by a public servant, in your perspective, Mr. Nick?
That is a interesting question. Of course, being a public servant, you have to be smart. You have to be presentable. You need to know and effectively do your work in serving the people. But for me, the most important thing, being a public servant or public service generally, the most important thing is integrity. All right. Without integrity, you are nothing. In fact, as a human being, without integrity, you are nothing. Apatah lagi being a public servant, you have some sort of authority, you have some sort of connections in the ministry and things. So you have to work with the highest integrity that you can. Not that you can. You have to work with integrity. That's all. Bottom line is integrity.
Okay, integrity. How about you, Miss Nadia?
Well, I have few attributes to highlight. Probably I will touch on the general first. I think the first important attribute is to be humble, and you have a very good sense of humility, because in public service, or actually in general in any job market, is one can have the best IQ probably, but if you don't have the EQ, the right EQ, emotional quotient, it's not going to work for you at any point or any level of your career. Because in civil service, besides humility, you need to be a good listener, because you will need to help people. So you need to have that skill deeply ingrained in your DNA, because people will come to you telling all your problems, asking for help, and you need to be patient and a good listener while helping them. Because I do think that in the public sector, we render services, and I would like to quote one of the best, probably senior in the civil servant, Tun Ahmad Sardi, said that in the public sector it's the highest authority of service, means it's a service of the highest order. So you need to have the right skills to be in the civil service. Besides that, you need to also be collaborative, because you need to work as a team, and you need to manage a lot of or various stakeholders around you, regardless of private, public, civil society, from grassroots levels to probably the top management. And touching on where we are now, we are in the 21st century. I would like to highlight three skills that is very important. You need to be versatile and agile. Because we are living in a VUCA world. It's called volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Public servant needs to be very adaptable to any changes around them, because as we can see, nothing stays permanent, and I mean, change is the only constant thing in life. So you need to have that particular versatility, agility, and also adaptability to manage your career in the public sector.
Okay, so that's
if I may
collaborative.
add to
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
and Nick, is it okay? So I see the public servant punya duty ni, it is a profession. Public servant is profession. So we behave just like how a professional is expected to behave, integrity, ethical, kena ada composure juga bila you jumpa dengan you punya client or you punya target sector, humility. But it's just that dia satu profession, just we don't have universal certification macam ACCA, CFA tak ada. So even as a CFA candidate, I try my best to adopt CFA ethics that I learned from their text, which is to in particular in my research work. So I try my best to practice independence when I carry out my research.
Can I add a little bit because you
Sure,
talk about attributes, right? Yes, Nadia said the right things. Dr. Kopi said the right things about all the attributes that a civil servant should have. But I need to explain that one of the nasty thing that people have been telling the public out there on how public servants are inefficient. That yes, well, we can agree there are some public servants who are inefficient, but you have to understand one thing. Being in civil service, we have a very structured process and policies and pekeliling and undang-undang that we need to follow. Inefficient if you tell in terms of process lambat and everything, that's not all about inefficiency. It's about doing the right thing, doing according to law, pekeliling, dasar and everything. So I would like to break the myth that civil servants are inefficient, wholly inefficient, because everything needs to be done in principle. So yes, again, inefficiency is individual basis. It's not public service as a whole.
Just for clarification, Mr. Nick. So in the private sector, usually they are more, let's just assume that in the case where they are more efficient, right? Is it because they are not following certain procedures or principles like you mentioned, that's the reason they are faster?
They have procedures and things to be followed. But then I have to say that in public service, there are different procedures. We have a lot of layers to go through. From the ministerial level, top management level, working level, prime ministerial level. It's not inefficient that we have to. It's not that we can go and bulldoze everything. There are things that need to be looked at first.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add on Nick's point?
Oh, definitely, Ms. Nadia.
Yeah, I would like to agree with what Nick said, that because I think government itself is a complex ecosystem and we are bureaucratic. So the bureaucracy system is hierarchical. So there are a lot of probably research and findings that bureaucracies does not only exist in Malaysia, but the whole government in the world has these bureaucracy issues. They call it that government is a complex animal anyway.
Yep.
So, but I do think that over the years, the country's administration and machinery have become more efficient, and actually people accounted less problem dealing with the government of the day or any government lately, because we are living in a digitalized world. So I sincerely feel that public sector is more efficient now, and we are more responsive than ever before. But the bureaucracy in the government system is still prevalent, it's still there. But there are many measures to actually reduce the red tapes and bureaucracy. That is where actually the government keeps on improving their the system and procedures from time to time to serve the public. So like I would like to reiterate and concur with Nick that it's a myth actually. Government is actually functioning more better now, and it's like continuous improvement all the time.
Yeah, in fact, if I can say this, for the since the last 10 years, the government has been trying to to expedite things. For example, passport. 10 years ago, I think 20 years ago, passport buat hari ni sebulan baru dapat. But nowadays, passport buat hari ni dapat hari ni.
Why not?
So this, yes, can 1 or 2 days lah. But that shows that there are a lot of improvement in the civil service, in the process penyampaian government itself. That, not just passport, everything actually. You can check the efficiency, progress of civil servant government sector right now.
I think one thing we can take away from this is that the fact that our government itself is, like Ms. Nadia said, is really complex. It means that you have many levels to it, like Mr. Nick said as well. Meaning the comparison is essentially quite unfair to compare between the private sector and also the government sector. And I think that's really, really nice way of explaining it. Thank you to the both of you. Let's move on to the next question, which is going to be a little bit about people of my generation, the younger, the youth, the teens. So the vast majority of people, including myself as well, we question between whether or not we should enter the public sector or the private sector. There's always this comparison between the two, and there's always the question whether which is better. And having most of the people in our panel been experiencing both the private sector and also the public sector. Can you explain to us what you think made you go on to the public sector as compared to the private sector? Mr. Nick, would you like?
Oh,
I can see your smirk.
I think it's not about choosing public sector or private sector, because I'm here not to motivate people to join the public sector, but because I personally think that people should go and work towards joining private sector, being entrepreneurs, because this will contribute also to the nation building. This will stimulate the economy and everything. But then, like I said, it's not about choosing public sector. It's about apa nak panggil tu, and we need to have the right mindset. Like I said, it's not about pension, it's not about money, it's not about power. You just need to have the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, I personally think that you should not consider joining the public service, because we need people with the right mindset being a civil servant. That's all I can say.
That's really nice advice. How about Dr. Opi?
For me, that it's not a problem if that has been their ambition, and if they're happy with the working condition, go ahead. But if they have not considered the public sector, especially because of the stereotypes they've heard before, then I think Malaysian public sector is really worth considering, which relates to your tadi tanya what's my take on teachers going from private to from public to private. Because from what I see, I think our government, Malaysian government, we take education seriously. Malaysian government, they take the training of staff, they take it seriously. In fact, for each of the staff, we have to complete a minimum training hours per year, at least 7 days. I think it's worth 7 days macam tu, atau mungkin lebih, atau kalau nak boleh Nadia ataupun Nick boleh confirm. So for me, it's totally okay if they want to join corporate first, when you're young, masa tengah nak kejar duit lagi kan. And then by 35, once dah ada experience, you dah ada qualification, come join the public sector, provided you have the right mindset lah, macam Nick cakap tadi. In fact, it is not an uncommon scenario to find PTDs with professional qualification. Yang ada ACCA, yang ada CFA, yang ada Ph.D, ni ramai. So our government officials, they are smart people. That's why macam nak kata the government is a complex animal. Kita nak uruskan complex animal ni, we need smart people, we need passionate people. Money is important, yes, but it's not everything.
Correct. Agreed. Miss Nadia, what is your take?
Oh, okay. I do believe that life is about choices, right? So basically, when I graduated from my degree in university, few of my family and friends telling me, don't go and join the government. It's not challenging, it's not rewarding, and it's not sexy probably. But I think that was the conception before. But once I joined the public service, I do find there are many bright, passionate, committed, and dedicated talent in the civil service because they know what they want in life. So I do think that it's about what do you want to achieve, or what do you want to contribute to yourself or even to society. I would like to emphasize and highlight that to the younger generation nowadays, probably that they should not consider government as a second option or last resort. Once once they graduate and say like, okay, never mind, I'll join the government later, or even if I'm not happy with my current job, because I do think that there is a kind of like a flawed mentality because we have a lot of good talents in the public sector, but how do you maneuver? I mean, like in the system that is depends on your mission and also your maturity to handle it. Like for instance, if we were to see that. I mean, like, I would like to give experience from my friends or my juniors that saying, asking and telling me that I would like to join the public sector. Is it too late? Because they found out that later in life they want to join, probably like late 30s, but they feel it's too late because we need to start from the freshie or even the junior level, and that is the risk that they need to take because we like you can see me, Nick, Dr. Opi and me, we started from the private sector or semi-government sector in like 5 to 8 years. Then we joined the public sector. So it's not too late or too early, but we have gained experience, maturity, and the right skills to help, like we said just now, the complex animal, which is we need the right people to maneuver the civil service. So it's challenging, it's rewarding, and it's a good, for me, it's a good prospect to any aspiring, or passionate Malaysians or citizens out there to join.
Can I add on Nat's point?
Yes, Mr.
Again, I would like to break the myth that orang kata, oh, masuk government ni senang je. It's not. We have a lot of procedures. Senang cerita, nak masuk government susah lah sekarang. Yeah. In fact, to be an academician, senior lecturers like Dr. Kopi also susah. Thousands of applicants in PTD punya case lah, thousands of applicants every year. We have to go through a lot of selection process and everything. Sama juga dengan academicians. They need to have a certain level of academic to join and be a university lecturer. So I have to agree with Nadia. It's not second choice dah sekarang. If you think you have what it takes to be public servants, then you go from the start lah.
Agreed. So another question, just directly linking to it, is it a problem that many young individuals choose not to join the public sector? Is it going to be a scarce of mental capacity or human capital in this sense? Are we in lack of brain power in the government sector since the youth are starting to opt for private sectors? Dr. Opi, would you like to start first?
Sorry. Can you please repeat the question again?
Is it a problem? Is it a problem that we are facing right now if a lot of younger generation individuals choose to go to the private sector instead of public sector? Is the public sector lacking young minds?
Like you are saying that it's a problem for the younger generation.
Yeah, I'm asking if it's a problem.
Is it a problem?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. So for me, no, not really. It's not really a problem. But how shall I say? Kita manusia pun kita satu macam apa? Macam nak kata bukan government je kompleks. Human being pun dia berubah-ubah kan. Masa muda mungkin you rasa you nak duit, so you nak cari pergi you akan pergi private sector. But later as you age, you will find your true vocation.
Okay.
Honestly, I've never imagined myself working in education. Once when I was a student, my friend thought I would fit in education, and I told them, no, these are all, I would say, losers. But yeah, but now that I am in education, in public sector some more, and I'm doing things I like. So itu pun I jumpa later. Bila I dah masuk education, probably 1 year later I realised, oh, this is actually one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Memang I get to do things that I really like and things that I'm good at.
That's
So for
really
me,
inspiring. Yeah.
not really a problem. Cuma sooner or later je lah, bila once dia jumpa dia punya true vocation, dia akan decide. Hopefully it's not too late by then lah.
Ms. Nadia, what is your take?
Okay. I don't think it's a problem because I highlighted just now, like, life is about choices. I know that the millennials nowadays, they are more, I think, there's a research about our public service department that they like challenges that make them viable to go to any job from time to time, or even like they are more susceptible to probably freelance job. They call it gig economy, or even I could say that they are not loyal to one organization. That's what the research said. So it depends on them. Like Nid said, that we need passionate entrepreneurs. We need NGOs who are also being led by good community activists, because that particular stakeholders, the dynamic of it, like everyone is very unique. Every segment is very unique. So they need to be probably a balanced proportion. Not everyone should be in the government sector. Not everyone should be in the private sector. So it has to be balanced, and it goes back to their inner passion, inner calling. Because I do have friends that who are forced to join the government sector, probably by the parents. Like, you should go into the public sector because it's stable, it has pension and all. And there are certain people who say, don't go into the public sector, don't go to sector. So, but you need to ask yourself first, what do you want to do and what do you want to be actually?
Agreed. Okay. Mr. Nick, what is your take?
I think the millennials, the young, not that I'm saying that I'm not young, but the younger generation like you, Pavi, you have different set of attitudes. You guys don't like to be asked what to do. All right, probably. And actually, this kind of attitude and mentality, the public servants, I mean the policymakers in the public servants, we need to embrace this change of attitude of generation. Yes, in the current civil service, we do need people who can follow orders. All right, but then we have to think that there might be some embracing process to accept the future generation who have different kind of mentality, who have different kind of attitude. The future public service, probably we have people who can, who don't follow orders properly anymore. That is something that we need to prepare to embrace the future generation. Because I think we need to embrace that kind of things, not just human capital and of course technology, talk about gig economy and everything. So dalam kerajaan ni, we need to always be adaptable to changes, so we don't want to have a stagnant government punya style. We have to embrace the future.
Agreed.
If I,
Mr. Nick, it's okay, Miss Dr. P, you can go on first.
if I may add a bit to this millennial point, from education punya perspective, we do find yes, millennials ni memang dia pandai komputer, dia memang very very techy. Techy meaning technology ya. Cuma how shall I say? If I were to compare myself with the youngsters nowadays, with my students, diorang pandai komputer. You suruh cari apa pun dia boleh cari dekat Google tu, dia akan jumpa cepat. Cuma they have to be taught, they have to be trained on what to look for. They are good with the technical side of it, but they must know, they must learn what to look for. Benda yang dicari tu mesti benda yang betul lah. Sebab kalau maybe kita guna internet ni, kalau kita tak pandai, kalau kita tak tahu content apa nak cari, we might end up with the wrong content.
Agreed. Mr. Nick, there's a question directed. Oh, is Dr. Opi still speaking?
Right.
I think Dr. Opi is lagging.
I dah habis dah.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. There's a question directed to you, Mr. Nick. It's from Muhyiddin Ahsan from YouTube. So his comment says that the reason why the younger generation aren't loyal to one job is because prices have increased more than wages have since older times. Inflation. Because people are simply finding better ways to survive in this economy. So I think that's an argument directed towards you in terms of the wage discussion we had just now. Do you have a response to that, Mr. Nick?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. The percentage of wage and the cost of living is not going into, it's not the percentage of cost of living and wages tak sama. The wages tu je naik sikit je, cost of living naik banyak. I have to agree with that. So that's why I said in the when I first started in the webinar, you have to have the right mentality. Joining the public service is not about money, it's not about wage, it's not about weight at all. Okay, and if the commenters said that they want to have a higher salary because of the cost of living and everything, public service is probably is not an option to him or her. But then if you want to join the public service and experience the benefits, not just gaji and salary, and kepuasan, then yes, you can join public service.
I see. That's interesting. I hope your answer managed to convince Muhyiddin Ahsan. Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to point out that we from Cemerlang would really love to hear from you. We'd like to know how you feel about these webinars and what you think about it. How can we improve on these webinars? So please do click on the link below in the comment section sent by the Cemerlang profile itself. Please submit a feedback and tell us how to improve. We would love to improve so that we can provide even better webinars in the future. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question is actually something quite interesting, and it's something that's been asked by many actually, especially towards the public servants. The question is, are you against government secrecy? Because as public servants, you are generally the most exposed people towards government secrets. And I'm not sure if you are, I'm not sure if you are not, and I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to tell us if you are either, but would you agree with this concept of government secrecy or Akta Rahsia Rasmi as a whole? What is your take? Let's start from Ms. Nadia.
Well, I'm 100% pro Akta Rahsia Rasmi because we are, as the government servant, we need to know where we stand and we need to know our duties as a government servant. We cannot divulge sensitive information or even decisions to anyone. I do think that it applies to all government in the world. I mean, I cannot say that it's exclusive sector where we need to contain the information, but I think that is part and parcel of being a government servant. You need to we need to take care of all the information because it's very sensitive and delicate. And I don't see any benefit also to share information to the public, which is not supposed to.
Yeah.
That is the practice that we were told and being trained since our intern days, and we know that kita jalankan amanah kan, so kita kena pastikan yang all the amanah tu dilaksanakan dengan betul dan baik. So I do think Nick probably has more things to say about this Aktarasi Rasmi.
All right, Mr. Nick, you have been given the burden.
Like Nadia, I 100% agree with Aktarasi Rasmi. We took an oath, all civil servants, we took an oath to jaga kerahsiaan, the word kerahsiaan, yeah. And I would like to emphasize that being a public servant, especially public servant in terms of PTDs and other schemes in the public service, it's not that we don't know things. It's not that we are not smart. All right, we just don't. We are not allowed to tell things. If you see the public servants, including me, we don't really active on social media. We always share on personal things and not write comments on government policies and everything. There are some, but not much on the sensitivity. But that doesn't mean that we don't know things. That doesn't mean we are not passionate about government policy. We are not allowed to comment on government policies because we took oath when we started as civil servant.
Mr.
Yeah.
Nick, the general argument towards this whole government secrecy issue itself is, let me just give you an example. Edward Snowden, for instance, in the US. So when Edward Snowden called out, he whistleblowed, and in that instance, there were some people who called him a hero to the nation because it was really important information that the public needed to know. At the same time, he also had this whole government secrecy, Aktarasi Rasmi in the US version, people convicted him of crime saying that he was against the constitution. So in those cases where it could benefit the public, what is your take on the whole government secrecy scene?
That's a very, very hard question. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, I'm very sorry.
Again, it's up to the individual. All right. We agreed earlier that human are complex animal. Kan? Jadi again, yes, you are civil servant. You took an oath to protect the secrecy, but then again, it's your choice. It's your choice. If for me, if you think that you by giving the information that will benefit more to the country, it's by choice actually. I cannot comment on that.
I see.
Maybe
Alright.
maybe I would like to probably help Nick on that question, because when you mentioned about the case in US, probably right, when you talk about Rasmi, we thought that it was about disseminating information that is not supposed to in the social media to the public without consent, with probably with or even to gain pleasure of getting probably attention of doing that. But when it comes to probably like information that is important, probably in certain cases, like you said, whistleblowers, right? So when the civil servant is being called to share the information, to divulge the real story, or even the right the reality of the situation, then I think it's not a real problem, because I mean that is his integrity and honesty and also amanah, that he or she needs to deliver. In certain cases that where we have public servants that probably, like I think we had this discussion of taking pictures of minute mesyuarat, and also certain decisions, put it on the internet. So I think that is very unwise, because we know that we should not do that. I do think that if you would like to discuss something, you can be analytical, you can be critical and vocal, but not in the social media or public world. I do believe they have friends to share or discuss certain things with their rightful colleagues. For instance, like I have friends that probably we have discussion, but that's not necessarily that we agree all the time. We usually agree to disagree, but we have intellectual discussions about what do you think, like certain opinions on things, not sharing information. But that's how probably you need to have the right outlet to have that intellectual discussion or even information, so that you can have a clear idea. But the Actuarial suggests me that probably I and Nick thought is like sharing information publicly just to gain attention or something.
Okay, understood. Dr. OP actually raised her hand just now. Would you like to continue, or do you want to move on, Dr. OP?
Ya, kalau I boleh tambah sikit dekat information, sharing information, what Nadia dengan mention just now. Kalau dalam universiti sekalipun, we all masih kena jaga secrecy juga. For example, like very small thing. Let's say my subject, my student. I cannot tell my student how they are doing, I mean their final grade in my subject before the Senate announcement. Even sekecil itu pun kita kena jaga. Imagine lecturer cakap you dapat grade lain, and then suddenly Senate bagi keputusan dekat you, result you something else, dan nanti ada masalah kan. Kalau ramai lecturer buat macam tu, susah lah Senate juga.
So again,
it's very much like portfolio managers, diorang kena they cannot disclose how much dividend and bonus they can give this year before the announcement of the CEO or the chairman. Sama jugalah macam tu.
it all comes back to integrity, like I said.
Speaking of integrity, Mr. Nick, there's another question from the same person, Widin Hassan again.
Right.
I will read the second part of the question, which is Malaysia claims to have whistleblower protection laws, but why are whistleblowers still being charged then? He hopes that this is answered by any member of the panel. If anyone would like to answer this question, would anyone want to?
Maybe Nadia can answer that, probably.
Ms. Nadia?
I don't think that I have the right to answer this, but if let's say I cannot represent government to answer about whistleblowers, but we do think that whistleblowers are bound to share the information with the rightful organization or with the suitable agency that needs to obtain the information. I don't think that whistleblowers is being penalized or charged yet at this particular era. So maybe the case that he was mentioning is from the previous era. So I hope that probably answer that in a clear manner. Yeah.
So that's Mr. Nadia thinks that it's a new era. We have changed. We have turned new leaves, and things have changed. So I think that's a very good answer as well. Let's move on to the final segment of this webinar, which is a little bit more dramatic: office politics, and specifically kowtow culture or cable culture. And this is something that's always been brought up, especially in my generation of people, talking about how in the public sector it's very politically inclined, not in terms of like political parties, but in terms of how the meritocracy is sometimes questionable. So my question is the public sector more prone to being affected by office politics, kowtow culture, cable culture, or does work progress hold much more weightage when it comes to instances of promotions, bonuses, getting grants approved? This is especially for Dr. OP, contribution recognitions, and other examples. Do you think that meritocracy and achievement outstands cable culture, having, say, a family member at a higher body? Which is more important in your take for like public sectors as a whole? Anyone want to start first?
Okay, start. Can I say something? Yeah.
Oh, for sure, Dr. OP.
I would like to touch on that. Tadi you kata grant application. So when it comes to grant application, dia macam ni, every grant scheme ada dia punya rules and regulation. Okay, so as long as the researcher know the rules, they fulfill the requirements, so you can expect usually you tak ada masalah untuk dapat your grant to be approved. And in fact in UKM pun kita ada grant system yang staff yang lagi senior you tak digalakkan kacau grant pool of the junior staff. Contoh. If you understand what I mean, meaning to say kalau grant ni kita guna untuk kalau grant ni usually kita bagi a certain amount yang rendah sikit, usually kita akan kata yang lecturer yang jadi professors tak boleh kacau, jangan kacau sangatlah grant sini, jangan apply sini lah, kita pergi apply grant yang lagi besar. But if you do not feel the the stated requirement, then you can expect your grant application to be rejected because of technical knockout. But for me, office politics they happen everywhere. You kerja dekat small company ke, kat big bank, foreign bank ke. But I don't in UKM we have ada system. If staff boleh lodge complaint through system, and if the complaint is very serious, the complaint will go to the vice chancellor. But if it's not really serious, it will be evaluated by a committee lah. So I guess in that case it's also minimized. But whatever it is, wherever you work, you have to know your right as an employee, but at the same time you must also know the regulations lah, so that others will not take advantage on you and you also will not do wrong things to others.
Agreed. Mr. Nick, do you have a take on this as well?
Again, I would like to reiterate what Dr. Kopi said. Office politics are everywhere. Not just in civil service, not just in universities. And like I said, it's a very complex institution. You have a lot of process to select the best civil servants for the country, right? In fact, the process getting harder and harder every year, you know. And I would like also to break the myth that for some people said that masuk government there are the cable and everything. Not that I know, because the process are very, very tough. You have to go through every process, right? And then again, when you are in civil service, again, I would like to emphasize that you have to have the right mentality. Pangkat, salary, money is not your priority, right? There are times that you lambat naik pangkat. There are times that you cepat naik pangkat. These are all rezeki. You work hard for it, people will recognize you. In fact, in the public servant, JPA, there are methods of recognizing talented people, you know. And again, of course, in the universities as well, for lecturers, there are methods. There are specific tracks for those who work hard, talented people, talented public servants to be filling all the strategic positions. So again, I would like to break the myth. You just have to work hard for it. You know.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Nick? Would you agree with me if I said that the fact that the government sector is so systematic and they have so many levels of things, it's less likely that these forms of cable culture would be effective in the government sector?
Yes, I have to agree with you on that as well.
I think that's an important message to be sent out here, correct? Because a lot of people misconceive the fact that the government sector is always about cable culture. However, we did receive another question about why then again there still exists cable culture by YouTube commenter Kishan Kumar. And I think it's really important that we clarify today, why is it that people assume, or even if it does exist, why is it that people think public sector is so much prone to cable culture than the private sector? Would you like to explain that, Mr. Nick? Because I think this is a really important question to answer.
Yeah, or maybe Miss Nadia would like to add.
Yes, that would be great, Miss Nadia.
I wanted to answer about a different element that you touched about kowtow and also.
Oh, okay. If you like to, you can go on.
I will touch a bit about the cable culture, but I will return that back to Nick. But in a way, I don't think that I'm not clear whether the cable culture that he is mentioning is regarding the promotion or getting getting accepted to the government. Because if they're talking about cable culture to get, probably projects or even grants or loans or whatever to the government, I think that is not 100% true. Because I always believe, when I was especially in the construction industry, it was a very dynamic, and also how I can say, very open to many temptations, I would say, because it's projects, right? Like delivering projects to contractors and subcontractors. But the first thing they need to know, they need to have the qualification and merit first. Whatever you do in life, you need to have the merit and qualification. Then the connection it's not necessarily a compulsory element, but it would probably assist you in certain ways that you already fulfill the first technical financial qualification, or even in for a job employment, you already fulfill all the requirements. But I do think the cable or even the connection is not necessarily the first thing that people will consider, even in the government or even or in the private sector. Sometimes it's about luck. I mean, like it does happen, right? Certain people, even though they fulfill everything, they would probably not get or even being awarded, because I do think luck plays an important role as well. But okay, that is on the cable culture. But for the kowtow, or you mentioned just now, whether it's like being a yes man or yes woman, or being a people pleaser, probably. I do think that it's a common or general office politics everywhere. But I would like to emphasize that kowtow is something. It's a bad conception of people who delivers, but being labeled as kowtow. Because I do believe, if you deliver, you manage or meet or deliver beyond your boss's expectation, that is not being kowtow or wode. That is performing because you don't appreciate mediocre outcomes. But if you just do lip service, you don't do nothing at work, and then you get away, or on certain things, or taking advantage on your privileges because you are probably close to your superior, or people that probably have power, but you don't do anything. You are incompetent and lazy. That is, I think, is not a good trait to have in even in government or even the private sector. So it's not about only in public sector. That is what I would like to emphasize. But in this era of probably that we have maybe people who have more analytical and critical views as public servants, we need to ensure that if we were to give advice to our superior, to actually extend our opinion, we need to give without fear or favor. That's important, because we need to be honest and diplomatic, especially in giving our views, and always maintain a sense of objectivity. That is, I think, one of the most important element in as a public servant. Because if, let's say, you mentioned kowtow as in like agreeing every single thing, right? But sometimes you need to probably share your opinion in a diplomatic way. But if at the end of the day, the boss will decide, it will actually realize the responsibility to the boss, and we have to accept that fact. But at least we have actually voiced our view diplomatically.
I think that's a really good answer, Miss Nadia. I really enjoyed it. But can we just clarify for the audience, does it exist in the public sector? Does kowtow culture and also cable culture exist in the public sector? Is it a very big magnitude of a problem? And let's just say that if it is, and if you do agree, how is it that we can face this problem together as public servants? How do we garner for change? Mr. Nick?
Maybe Nick, yeah.
Kau tahu culture, cable culture and things, they are everywhere, right?
So do they exist in the public sector as well? Does everyone
They
include?
are everywhere. To say the magnitude of the problem is not small. I think the magnitude of the problem is not small everywhere as well. So of course, like I said again, being a civil servant, you need to have the right mentality, and people who are not in civil service also, the nations in general also need to have the right mentality towards civil service, because
Yes.
at the end of the day, we work together. The public sector, the private sector, everything has their own roles in building the nation, right? So we have to respect each other. We have to respect the public sector. We have to respect the private sectors, and we have to respect everyone. All right, that's all from me.
That's a very strong message sent by Mr. Nick, that we need mutual understanding, not just between the public and private sector, but also amongst the public sector and between the public sector and also the people that they are serving. The mutual understanding is really, really important. And thank you, Mr. Nick, for that answer. Maybe probably the last question we can get from the audience by a YouTube commenter, Vince. She would like to ask, how about those people who have reached the age of pension but still do not want to let go of the job? Doesn't this close down all opportunities for the younger generation? Would anyone want to answer this question? Dr. Opi?
Huh?
Would you like to answer this question?
You're talking about those in those who are supposed to retire but still want to hold on to the position. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Blank sekejap. Okay. For me, okay lah. Let me be honest lah. Dia ada there's two side of it. I'm talking from one of the research papers that I've read before about this pension scheme. There was this one study by done in Austria. They check Austrian government what happened when they bila dia prolong or they lengthen the servicing punya period. Okay, what they found was that memang ada ada improvement in terms of tax revenue, but at the same time it also caused what do you call that, dia ada spillover effect juga, we call it, whereby bila kita letak orang yang dah sepatutnya retire, walaupun dia masih bayar tax, but then you also have to pay for the unemployment benefit in that country. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is Austria. Tapi dia punya net effect was positive lah, although sikit saja positif dia. For me, kalau untuk saya personally, saya rasa kita boleh retain yang those yang dah supposed to retire ni, but only a selected few, especially because those people yang we can make as reference point, yang ada simpan banyak maklumat, yang ada simpan banyak pengalaman. Kita boleh simpan diorang, because bila kita ambil staff baru, staff yang muda, these people need to be taught. But kalau you depend semua on orang muda saja pun, betul kita bayar gaji kurang, kita pun kurang bayar unemployment benefit, but at the same time these people they lack experience, and those experience kita berdapat daripada those yang supposed to pension. I mean, kalau nak retain, we retain I would say the cream of those yang banyak experience tu lah. Yeah.
Mr. Nick, do you have an opinion?
My opinion is the same as Dr. Opi, but then what I can say is public service is a very dynamic institution, and it keeps on changing, right? The culture keeps on changing. Probably the points that brought up by the commenter, that we retain the people that have retired. That is probably in a different era in culture, right? We are in a different era. We are going to a different era. So it's not always the case in civil service. That's all I can say.
Okay, Miss Nadia.
Well, I do think that, like, I agree with Dr. Opi and Nick as well. I mean, like, if it's a subject matter expert in certain area, probably the government would consider giving them an extension of few months or probably a year or two. But I do think it's not, it doesn't apply to everyone. But you have to be probably a subject matter expert or a specialist on certain area and very wise and skillful, and that area that that government could not find replacement probably. But when I learned from probably my mentors and my seniors saying that they said that they are indispensable, so not everyone will not be retained forever. So as while they are around, maybe for a certain period of time, expertise and skills could give an advantage to the government sector. But it's a very minor probably number of that nowadays. But at the same time, we also need to really look into the bottleneck issues in the system, whereby, I mean, because it's like a pyramid, the ground and the bottom level is like, it's huge. It's a huge number now. So the career progression needs to be probably realigned. And I do think probably things will get better day by day. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting, Miss Nadia. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to everyone. One last plug, I just have to say, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. Please click on the bell icon as well, so that you are always updated with all the KYSER Kopi series. And I really hope that you will also send that hello message to the number that is posted by our Cemerlang representative. Hopefully you are subscribed to us, and hopefully you will also fill up the feedback form so that we can improve from not just today, but also our previous Kopi series. You can watch this exact entire live session on YouTube. It will be posted on YouTube and also Facebook. You can watch the entire thing, including the comments that were posted. And we really hope to hear from everyone. And we are really thankful for everyone's support. Thank you for watching. And as a last message, I really love to extend care and love towards members of the oppressed, the BLM community in the US. We really hope that the Americans will stay safe, and we really hope that the condition for COVID-19, not just in Malaysia but all around the world, will also improve. And we really, really hope that together we can face this pandemic together, and like we can improve as well. Thank you so much to the panelists. Thank you so much, Mr. Nick, Ms. Nadia, and Dr. Opi. It's been an honor to have you on this webinar, and I'm very sure that everyone who has attended this webinar has learned very much about the public sector, and we all have newer perspectives towards what the reality of the public sector really is. Thank you so much for enlightening us as a whole, and we really hope that you can join us sooner or later again.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Have a good long holiday.